All right, let's have some fun here. So Christie, who of course is still running for president, and he's been in all the Republican debates, and he's been going after Trump more than anybody else. He decided to go on Newsmax, Eric Bolling's show here, and they're going to get into it pretty aggressively. And at one point, Christie sort of snaps at him. So let's watch and we'll break it down.
It's less clear with Nikki Haley, who just yesterday was talking about.
Let me ask you, Chris.
Wanting to know.
I've been doing this a long time.
Okay.
A strategist. I mean, you have people who donate Mooch's money. You're spending Mooch's money like this. Why not focus that money against beating Joe Biden? You've chosen the strategy to go after Trump, and frankly, I don't think Haley has. I don't know if DeSantis has. They both have gone after the left or their woke-ish, whatever. But going after Trump doesn't seem to be working. I mean, is it the time to change the strategy? You still have a year.
No, it's not time to change the strategy. The guy who's 20 points ahead is the guy you have to beat to be the nominee, Eric.
Is Eric saying, hey, maybe if you went after the left and the wokies, as he called it, that's hilarious. And it also kind of sounds like Wookiees, which is even funnier. Is he saying, hey, maybe then you'd have a chance at winning if you just went after the left? First of all, Christie is nobody's lefty and nobody's liberal, and he does go after the left, and he also is super duper uber conservative. It's not like he's more moderate than Trump just because he goes after Trump. Where he is on the actual policy positions is incredibly conservative. But is Eric Bolling really floating that argument that, hey, maybe you'd have a chance in the primary against Trump if you just started going after the left? Is that really your argument? Is that really your argument? Jesus. But Christie, to his credit, is like, the dude is 20 points. He's more than 20 points ahead. Some polls, he's like 40 points ahead. What do you want me to sit back and say nothing about him? Of course I have to talk about him. He's the guy we have to beat. Now, by the way, is it going to work? No. But look, there's an argument in principle to be, if you're a Republican, if you're a conservative, and you know what a Trump presidency would mean, there's an argument in principle, like, hey, we cannot go in this direction. 91 criminal charges, says he's going to suspend the Constitution, literally anti-democracy and doesn't believe in the peaceful transfer of power. Like, I'm going to go after him because it's the right thing to do, full stop. I'm sure that's what Christie's position actually is. But what a ridiculous suggestion from Eric Bolling.
And that's why I think the Haley and DeSantis strategy is so ineffective, and why Ron DeSantis is now in single digits in New Hampshire. Because he...
All right, look, to be fair, if Christie is saying, hey, if DeSantis and Haley would just attack Trump more aggressively, then maybe they'd have a chance. If that's his argument, that's also not true. It looks like they're all caught in between a rock and a hard place because no matter what they do, Trump is going to win, right? So it's like, strategy is not necessarily the problem here. But the point is, as a matter of principle, you want to go after the guy with 91 criminal charges who says, let's suspend the Constitution, who's leading into your party by 1.5 miles, because these guys are Republicans, right? They don't want the complete and utter destruction of the Republican Party, and that's what Trump represents in many ways.
I'm making the case against the one person who you need to beat if you want to be the Republican nominee for president, and that's Donald Trump. And by the way, the reason I make that case is not just because I want to win, but I want our party to win. And he will not beat Joe Biden from, a courtroom in Washington, D.C. when he's being tried for crimes.
He might. We're at that point now, but it's not because Trump is a good candidate. It's because Biden's a really bad candidate. So, I mean, it was my analysis prior to Israel absolutely slaughtering people in Gaza relentlessly. It was my analysis that Biden was probably a 60% chance of beating Trump because I thought Trump's negatives outweighed Biden's, even in the eyes of the public, right? Like, Biden's really old and he hasn't done much lately, but early on in his term, he did okay. And I think Americans just look at Trump and Trumpism as just too extreme. Too extreme, you're too far gone, reel it in, the anti-abortion stuff, the election denialism stuff. But now we're at the point where, like, virtually every poll that comes out has Trump up on Biden. And now Trump is winning in a bunch of swing states, even in the average of the polling. So instead of being 60-40, I think Biden's going to be Trump. Now I think it's 60-40, Trump's going to be Biden. So I don't agree that when these guys say Trump can't win, but I don't know, maybe this point is strategic on their part to try to convince the Republican base, hey, don't go in this direction because it's not going to work out well. I don't know for sure, but I think anybody who's being honest would say either Trump's a slight favorite or it's close to a coin toss. I think that's like the real honest position about the likelihood of winning. But you hear plenty of people, like you'll have Cenk Uygur on the left says it's literally impossible for Biden to win. And you have people like Christie on the right who say it's literally impossible for Trump to win. it's not impossible for either one to win, but they're both absolutely despised, and they both have massive, massive downsides, which are huge political liabilities.
His own chief of staff has signed up to testify against him. Not some, woke prosecutor, not some crazy Democrat from the Justice Department. Mark Meadows, one of the founders of the Freedom Caucus, and his chief of staff is going to testify that Donald Trump committed crimes and instructed him to commit crimes. Mark Meadows, you would call him a hero weeks ago. Come on. Don't interrupt me when I start to say things that make people uncomfortable.
I'm just a numbers guy. I'm just a numbers guy. It's insurmountable. Let's be honest. It is insurmountable to overtake Donald Trump by any of these people, unless, of course, something dramatic happens with Trump in his personal life, being convicted of something or worse.
Nothing dramatic could possibly happen in Donald Trump's life. I'm not a numbers guy, by the way, Eric. I'm a character guy. And I think we deserve better as the Republican Party and as the United States than a guy who's going to be convicted of felonies this April to be our nominee and to try to be our president.
By a bunch of liberal Democrats that are trying to take him down because they fear him.
No.
Guess what? If Christie was 53%,
not by a bunch of liberal Democrats.
They probably have your butt in the courtroom too.
No, I'm not going to put up with you saying that. He's going to be convicted by Mark Meadows, a founder of the Freedom Caucus, and his chief of staff, who he called the next James Baker. That guy is now testifying and will sit 20 feet away from Donald Trump in a courtroom, taking an oath and saying he committed crimes and he directed others to commit crimes, including me. That's what he's going to say.
All right.
And that's not some woke prosecutor. That's not some group of liberals. That's a guy who founded the Freedom Caucus in the House, a Republican from North Carolina, and his choice for chief of staff. Eric, I'm not a numbers guy. I'm a character guy. And when Mark Meadows gets on that stand, everything I've been saying about Donald Trump that you've been making fun of me about for months is going to wind up being true.
See, Eric Bolling wants so desperately to be able to dismiss all the charges against Trump, and he does try to dismiss them by saying, nah, it's a bunch of woke liberal lefties coming at him, bruh, that's all it is, bruh. And that just doesn't work, because you do have a lot of conservatives who are going to flip on him. You do have a lot of staunch pro-Trump people who are flipping on him. The evidence is absolutely overwhelming and astounding. He's already been found liable for fraud. He might have to pay a fine of up to $250 million, and he's going to lose his business license in New York. Tax fraud, insurance fraud, bank fraud. He's trying desperately to dismiss it. And ultimately, yeah, he does dismiss it in his own mind, because to Eric Bolling and many of the conservatives who are still supporting Trump, it's just vibes. We just like him. He's one of us. He triggers the libs. We just like him. And that's the end of the conversation. And watch, you'll see. He's going to try to prod Christie from a strategy perspective, but Christie isn't biting on it. So he's like, look, I'm going to go after the guy on principle because he's a criminal, and I think it's bad for the country, and I don't think he should be the nominee. And you'll see, Bolling just hand waves it all away.
Truth is coming, baby.
I don't make fun of you. Christie, you know I don't make fun of you. You know we have a long history. We go a long way back. I am the numbers guy. And we'll see. We shall see, as they say. Christie, thank you.
You be the numbers guy. I'll be the character guy. We'll see what happens.
Together, we may just, I don't know, we'll conquer the world.
All right, that's super awkward. Anyway, so, I mean, you see, he's almost like, why are you talking about it? Why are you talking about the crimes? It doesn't even, I mean, it didn't work. It didn't work in the polls. Trump is going up and up and up and up over here. And he thinks that's so shut up about the crimes already, because clearly the voters don't care. And I think Christie's point is, well, they should care, right? They should care. And also, don't be surprised if he gets picked as the nominee, which he almost certainly is going to at this late date. And then, wow, there's a conviction. I mean, it's all going to hinge on the timeline, right? Can they find him guilty? And can he be behind bars before a general election? That's going to be the question. And on that, I don't have the answer. I don't know the timeline. I don't know how fast it's going to go or how slow it's going to go. But, I mean, stop and think about this for a second. Look at how Eric Bolling just swats away, hand waves away all the charges against Trump. Imagine it was 91 criminal charges against Joe Biden or Barack Obama in 2008 or 2012. Or literally any Democrat ever, right? There was an FBI investigation into Hillary Clinton, and they were rightly, like, oh, look at that. Nobody should have. They're under FBI investigation. They should never be president. Obvious. And now Trump is found liable of fraud and he's got 91 criminal charges. And they're just like, la, 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 la. I don't see anything. La, 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 la. So it's just such a weird time in American history. It's just such a weird time. When you look at Joe Biden, you know, his brain just doesn't work anymore. He's super duper old. Everybody thinks there's no way he's going to be able to finish a second term or be effective. He's also signing on to Netanyahu, doing a genocide in Gaza. He's plummeting among Arab Americans and Muslim Americans and young Americans and Latino Americans. So you got that guy. And then on the other side, you have basically an out-in-the-open authoritarian with 91 criminal charges who says he's going to suspend the Constitution. They're talking about invoking the Insurrection Act on day one to deploy the military to quell any anti-Trump protests. And these are your options. And I'm sure Chris Christie feels like he's in the twilight zone, right? Because he's running for president. He's super-duper conservative, but none of that matters. To the Republican base, they don't care. The fact that he utters words against Trump is... it's a no-go zone. It's a red line. You're not allowed to do that, son. And that's why he's languishing in the polls and he's not going to go anywhere. And I think Eric Bolling is a perfect representative of that pro-Trump mindset. And these guys are unmovable. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.